I'm Barbara Kane, BMI's Vice President of Worldwide Creative, and I'm excited to welcome you back to BMI's She is the Conversation. Let me ask you both, what advice today might you give to young creators?
I know for me, I suffered from the idea that true geniuses only make art alone. And that's bullshit. I think that everyone should collaborate. And if you decide as a young creative that collaborating is not for you, you really got to prove that to yourself. Like, I want you to write 50 songs with multiple different people, speaking to songwriters directly, before you tell me that you should only write alone. And you might write great songs by yourself, but I think you'll learn so much more about who you are as a songwriter and who you are as a person through writing. I feel so connected to people through writing songs together. With COVID, it's the one of the biggest things I'm noticing creatively is actually, it's not about the creativity that's suffering, because there are still ways to write virtually and figure things out. It's like, I just don't feel I have to find new ways to be connected to all these people that we work with, because it's such an intimate thing to write a song with somebody. So I would say collaboration, you have to at least try it 50 times before you can tell me that you're not a collaborator. Mm-hmm. And then I would also just say, challenge yourself to find ways to swallow your ego any chance you get, which is a very weird thing to say to somebody who's an artist, because the whole point of being an artist is your point of view and your perspective. And you might be someone who your point of view and your perspective is the best way that you work, but try to take somebody else's lead a couple times and try to just make it not about you a couple times, because I think you'll learn so much more about who you are as a songwriter, but more importantly, who you are as a person.
For sure. I completely agree that the collaboration part is, I prefer to write alone, or I just send me track. You're like, oh God, I know you're talented. We all know you're talented. Like, this is about uplifting and getting you to where you want to be quicker. And realizing that you're going to, and the whole other side of what your art will unfold. For me, it would be like, if I did name one thing to tell creators, would be to stop comparing your journey to other people's journey, and how they got there, because your not only your life, but your art, all of that is very unique. And I think spending energy looking back all the time, or like, oh, are they catching up with me, or I'm not as good as I should be, like you're wasting energy on things that aren't going to serve you moving forward. I love running, as does Barbara. So I always refer to it as running. It's like, if you're in a race and you look behind you, you've lost momentum. You're not running your own race. And not only do you lose momentum, but you're probably losing the experience and the joy of being in that moment. And what it really means in the long run for you and your life. And you could be doing all the right things, and a song doesn't come out that year. There's no other industry in which you can do all the right things and you don't get to see the benefits of that product right away, right? And you can, like, if you're a doctor, right, you go to med school, you start to build a practice, and your practice builds, right? Each day you're building. So you can feel that success. But in the arts, especially in songwriting, you could go 2 years, but you're really building up for that third year of a windfall. And instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop in a negative way, it's changing that mindset of like, no, I did all of this. So this can happen. I can enjoy this. That gratification will never be immediate in songwriting. And if it is a very rare moment. You've probably worked, like, as Justin mentioned, traveled the world with Lady Gaga, been through record deals. You've probably had other experiences that were involved in music and the creative process in some way that set you up to be able to go, in 6 to 9 months, there's my first hit. But people don't understand a lot of the time when they look at Justin's career. Well, they worked you and then all of a sudden it just happened, you know, like it's because you like him more. And I'm like, oh my God. Like they don't say it like that, but they might as well be, you know? What they don't know is everything you've been through to that time. What they don't know, everything I've been through that time. Like, how dare you tell me I just like somebody more, so I'm working harder for them. You have no idea how this has worked. So again, comparing other people's journeys. We see young songwriters, like very young teenagers. Oh, I mean, I'm just so talented. Like, I'm just, you know, I just knew I was going to be a writer at the age of 4. And you're like, okay, all right, great. Good for you. Like, but how does that entitle you to having everything you feel like you deserve right now? Right?
Yeah.
Justin, you can weigh in on that because you know.
I think what you were saying at the beginning too is so important to reiterate of like, don't compare yourself to other people's journey or their success or whatever it is, because I even fall victim to it. And I'm not saying that I fall victim to it as someone who has hits. I think that, you know, success warps your brain in weird ways too, that you get even more insecure sometimes in these things. But I'm saying it because for some reason, whether it's my parents or who I was born or both combined, I'm a fairly confident person. And I have muted almost all songwriters on Instagram because I'll see somebody in a session that I don't even want to be in. I would have said no to. And I'll go, well, why wasn't I asked to be there? And then like, I have to like talk myself out of that spiral for like 2 hours. And I'm saying that as I didn't grow up with social media, so I feel like I'm not as affected by it as a lot of young people are. Someone who has already had hits and someone who has been pretty naturally confident since day one. If you're worried about somebody else's career, it's throwing me off. So I can't even imagine. I tell every young person I work with, I'm like, mute everyone on your social, either delete your social media or mute everyone else who's trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve. Because we're all different. There's room for everyone to succeed. There's room for all of us as long as you don't quit. It's all meant to be as long as you don't quit. But if I'm sitting there going, why wasn't I asked to go to that session? I can't even imagine what other people are thinking. So do not compare yourself. And practical advice, fucking delete your Instagram or mute everybody else.
I would say the greatest takeaway is recognize and respect the value of what multi-digital platforms musically provide, the outreach and the ability to get songs out, but also recognize the distractions and sometimes the dangers of what you just said, Justin. Why am I not in that session? I wouldn't want to be in that session. But why am I even thinking I should be in that session? There's such an interesting interplay of the mind and the spirit. But I say utilize social media as platforms for music.
When you, as a creative person, when you find your business partners, whether that's a publisher, a manager, whatever it is, like your business partner needs to trust you and you need to trust the business partner, executive, publisher, whatever that is. As long as like, you've got to at least give that relationship a year, if not like everyone, you have to go all in. Because like, I know if I didn't go all in with Katie, if I was thinking, oh, I don't know if that seems right, or I don't know if this seems right, blah, 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 none of this would have happened for me. It just wouldn't have. And again, I've had managers who are abusive and awful, and I'm not telling anyone to stay in that situation ever. I stayed way too long, like don't do it. But as long as like it's healthy, you gotta trust it, because if you don't, then the business side of it has to trust their creative person. If they're straight up telling you, I can't work this much, or I can't work with that person, you've got to trust them. You've got to trust each other, and you've got to give it your all for a good amount of time to see what's going to happen.
If I may, and you've been so generous with your time, and you know how much I adore you both, but I want to ask you individually a question. And I'll start with Justin, okay? What's the most valuable lesson Katie has taught you?
That I'm worthy. You know, it was 4 record deals dropped. I know I mentioned it a lot, but it was true. It's just the worst management ever. I was at 33 years old and I was going, am I like, maybe right before I met Katie was the time I was going, all right, well, you know, I guess it's time to go back to a day job. I keep telling people I'm great at this, but nobody else seems to agree.
Well, I can't.
I was starting to finally go, okay, I guess I'm wrong. I guess I was wrong. Even though I've told everyone since I was way too young that I am going to make music at the highest level. I am doing this. Maybe I was wrong this whole time. And it wasn't that Katie was blowing smoke up my ass. She wasn't going, you're the greatest songwriter ever. You're blah, blah, blah. It was just like, no, you deserve to be in these rooms and I'm going to find a way to put you in all of them. It was just that simple. It was, and you know, also I think because my gift is different. I am not, there are some of these young, amazing writers and old writers too, all writers that just like songs just fall out of their face. And it doesn't happen for me that way. I can write very quickly, but I write very quickly with other people, organizing and elevating and supporting and pointing the ship in the right direction and all that stuff. And so my gift is a little more subtle, even though I am not a subtle person, my gift is. And so, yeah, Katie just, you know, made me feel worthy.
Katie, what's the most valuable lesson Justin's instilled taught you?
And so I always go back to the fact that he validated in so many ways and continues to validate the importance in my life and how and in its journey and in his own, that resilience is the greatest and biggest factor in anyone trying to achieve what they want to achieve. It's not about I'm the best executive or he's the best songwriter. Or we came up from families. We both came from no connection to this music business. But seeing his resilience made me recognize that my resilience was a strength too. And that that we both had this Spider-Man complex. Like I get knocked down, but I always get back up. And that would apply to everything that we did together and separately in our personal lives, like that would always bond us. And I had never seen that on the business side, just never seen that. Where it was immediate, where I was like, oh my gosh, like upon meeting him, like he's just Brazil. He's just a freaking winner. Like there's no way this guy doesn't win. I would bet anything on him. If he makes me feel this special, how does he make everybody else feel? Like I'm just starting here at Warner Chapel. That lesson of knowing how important that characteristic is in life and seeing that in each other and just a belief of like, I got you, you got me. It was even in writing, I have it where I don't know how many songs I had been sending out that he had written from sessions that we had putting together. And there was one, and I always been very unfiltered with my feedback when it comes to an A&R's response, because I don't want anyone to think I'm blowing smoke up their ass or I didn't really send it. And we were establishing our relationship in that trust. And I sent him a response from an executive for a song, ironically called Forever the Good Things. And that executive passed on. I was like, oh, not for me, in a very like abrupt, curt way. And I sent it on to Justin and he replied, and the subject matter says Forever the Good Things. He was like, I won't stop until we win. And I remember like, okay, like I got you. Like, you're right. Like, we're not going to stop. It was just like this mirrored reflection of like, anything is possible. And when you have that, even when shit could be falling around you or whatever, you keep going. And I think we came into each other's lives at the right time because we easily when you have that level of resilience, people think you can keep putting up with so much. And at a certain point, no matter how resilient someone is, they can break. And I feel like we're at a pivotal time in each other's lives where that happened as it was supposed to happen, because Justin Tranter was not meant to sell jewelry at a retail store. And I wasn't meant to be a glorified, assistant with a college degree that meant nothing in the fine arts, right? I wasn't meant to do that. And he wasn't meant to do that. We were meant to do greater things. And that our resiliency would pay tenfold in our relationship and our career.
Thank you, both of you. I hope you know how much I appreciate you both. I hope you also know how much BMI appreciates, respects, supports, and is so proud of your accolades and accomplishments, awards, success. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to two very special people.
Thank you, Barbara. And
thank you.
When is your public speaking tour? I'm going to buy a front row ticket to every single speaking engagement.
Yeah.
Amazing, Barbara. That was so beautiful.
Thank you so much.